if you have a decent, like maybe you took a physiology course in college or maybe even high school, probably the best book to read is Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And this isn't just about, it's more about the stress response than just the nervous system, but obviously the nervous system is a big part of the stress response, and you get a lot of other cool things reading that book. So if you have kind of a good understanding of physiology, I would just go straight to this book. If you don't, which is perfectly fine, maybe you've got a college degree in art or something, that's cool. I would start with the Trouble with Testosterone. It's kind of a misleading title. It's also called And Other Essays on the Biology of the Human. Both of these books, by the way, are by Robert Sapolsky. So this will give you a lot of very, very basic physiology stuff, which will lead into Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. You probably can get away with just jumping right to Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, but if you want to be thorough and not be totally, some people may be totally blown away and not be able to read this book by Sapolsky. So again, if you're not 100% confident in your physiology knowledge, start with this one, The Trouble with Testosterone, and then go to Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. But in short, I've read this book 2 times. There's no research on central nervous system fatigue. There are some clinical, I guess some people are born with maybe a neurotransmitter that they don't have, or maybe there is depleted, or maybe a kind of receptor is not functioning well. And again, that's how a lot of people have diseases like kind of Cushing's disease or depression or things like that. But no exercise-induced fatigue at all. Another kind of claim people make is maybe adrenaline fatigue or adrenal fatigue, and that may have kind of some merit to it. But again, that's not really an exercise-induced thing. So that's the third point, the research. And then the fourth one is just observation and truth, right? So to kind of give you guys some examples, a lot of people are now, thankfully, kind of familiar with Matt Perryman, right? Matt Perryman wrote a book called Squat Every Day, I think that's what it was called. He put it out like 2 summers ago or something. I've been a fan of Matt for a very, very long time. If you read his website, it's called Myosynthesis, and mine is called MyoBrain, so not hard to connect the dots there. I've been a fan of Matt for a very, very long time. He's not big in the fitness industry because he doesn't have an Instagram with his shirt off all the time, but he is incredibly knowledgeable, and I highly recommend you check out all of his stuff. A lot of people have now bought his book because I know a lot of popular YouTubers made like reviews on it and stuff. So his book is called Squat Every Day. And again, you kind of probably need some background physiology to understand all that stuff. But again, you can go into that cold and get a lot of good information. But as far as observation and truth, you have people claiming central nervous fatigue from like, just squatting heavy and then on Monday and then Tuesday they feel tired. There's so many problems with that because for decades, not just since Matt Perryman put out this book or since someone's been talking about it, since the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s, Bulgarians were squatting every day. It's not a new thing. And maybe they were tired some days, maybe they had some highs, some lows, some middles or whatever. But the idea that you're not going to adapt to a stimulus just isn't there, right? The idea that your central nervous system is fatigued, again, the research isn't there, and not only is the research not there, in observation, it's not there, because you wouldn't see Bulgarians winning everything in the 70s if they were squatting 6 times a week, because I don't know too many people that squat 6 times a week that claims, and that maybe they squat twice a week or 3 times a week, and they claim central nervous fatigue, which is kind of maybe a cause of them not improving their performance. But how is that the case if a Bulgarian can squat 6 times a week and be the best in the world, right? They're doing more than you and they're better than you. So how is their central nervous system not fatigued, right? So neither in observation nor in research does it have merit. So it's very hard to even take it seriously, right? And I don't take it seriously, but it's a kind of a big topic in fitness industry, I guess. So I talk about squatting every day. Another kind of good example is Brandon Lilly. I forget the actual examples, but he talks about it all the time. Brandon Lilly is a pretty cool guy. I think he deadlifted like over 700 pounds like 3 times in 1 week or something like that, which is like 95% of his 1 rep max. And that's a kind of good example of him probably not being too CNS fatigued from his first deadlift to his second deadlift if he just did it again, right? And not to confuse central nervous fatigue with overtraining. A lot of people do kind of throw out the dumb claim that overtraining isn't real or whatever. Overtraining is a real thing. That doesn't mean that most people who claim it actually have it, right? They're two different. It can be real. It's just like when people Google their symptoms on the internet, they think they have like heart disease because they cough or something, right? It's a real thing, but I would say 90% of people that think they're overtraining are probably not overtrained. If you take a day or 2 off and you feel better, you weren't overtrained. Overtrained in their research is actually more of an aerobic phenomenon, maybe a distance runner running 50, 60, 70, 100 miles a week and not being able to recover from that. I haven't seen any overtraining research in strength athletes. I mean, I'm not saying there isn't any. I haven't read all the research papers in the world, but all the overtraining stuff that I've seen is from aerobic work, and it takes a long time, maybe like 4, 6, 8 months, maybe never. There's been instances where, like, again, not just average Joes, like high level elite potential Olympians have been like, clinically overtrained and never been able to get back to their original performance. So if you take a day off or 2 days off or a week off and you feel great, you weren't overtrained. Maybe you were in too high of a mental arousal. And that's kind of what I want to end this video with. It's getting kind of long, but hopefully you guys will stick around for the good part. So